Hey folks, how's it going? Welcome back to the channel and welcome back to another one of our weekly Hamefura discussion videos. Today we're going to be talking all about episode 2, but before we get into that, I do want to give a big thank you to those of you who shared last week's video over on Twitter. At Matt87Eagle, at Fiery Cathy, at Anzoff97, at Piero AI, at Sirius9752, at Blue Rose Enigma, at Anime Trashbin, at Atkinson Calvin, at JNtheo21, and at Janime. Thank you all so much for sharing last week's video over on Twitter, everybody, and if you too would like to have your name shouted out in next week's Hamefura video, then be sure to share this video around on the internet, and then tag me at JoJo Talks Too Much over on Twitter, and I will be sure to shout out the first handful of you in next week's video. Okay, so, professionalism gone. Y'all, I love this show. I love this show so much. I've been trying to be like Captain Professional at the start of the season, but I said this in my Balance Unlimited video, right? Like I said in the description that I was trying to really rein in some of my more fanboy / fudanshi side, right? Like I want to be semi-professional, but then I was like, nah, you guys watch me because, you know, I'm kind of a dork and I geek out about dumb things. So, not even dumb things, but just I geek out a lot and I act like a dork. And I think that's why people like the channel. So, I'm just gonna be real. Hamefura is kind of my thing. And again, when I play visual novels, right? Like when I play dating sims and stuff like that, I'm not playing it, I think, the same way other people are. Like, I see the characters and I'm like, ooh, that character would be good with that character, and that character would be good with this character, and I love it. It's not even so much of a fudanshi thing. I think it's more of just a shipping thing. I'm just like a shippy dude. I can't help myself. And the narrative for this show just really welcomes the ship, right? And this is 1000% a bi-harem. I was a little concerned because I was like, is this gonna be a bi-harem? Is Katarina a bi-con? She is. I'm definitely getting the sense that this character will eventually, by the time we get into the actual magic school and we properly establish the harem, I have a feeling these characters are going to be part of a bi-harem, and I'm all about it. I think it's hilarious. The shippiness of the show goes beyond Katarina as well, but we'll get into that a little bit in a sec. What I really want to establish is the narrative that Katarina is literally shifting. Katarina is obviously supposed to be the villain of the story, right? She was reincarnated as the villain of an Otome game, and she's aware of this, but she's accidentally becoming the protagonist, and I don't think she's aware of this. I wasn't even until towards the end of the episode when I was trying to jot down my thoughts in my notebook, and I was trying to establish so she accidentally woos Mary Hunt, she accidentally woos Alan Stewart. Is she just gonna start wooing all the characters left and right? And then the thought hit me is she gonna woo the protagonist too? Is she gonna make the protagonist all smitten and are they gonna fall? Is that where we're going? Where she just wins everybody over and then by the end she doesn't get a bad ending. She actually manages to achieve a good ending because she's actually trying to be, kind instead of a villainess in another world, Is that where we're going? Because it feels like that's where we're going. And they establish that because she's literally won over Alan Stewart, who is supposed to be this really standoffish dude, right? This is the brother of Gerald's, the main prince, right? The prince who was promised. The prince who was betrothed. And she wins him over, and she wins Mary over to the point where Mary is literally smitten. When she talks about Katarina, we see heart eyes, and I'm like, oh shit, is she gonna have a full harem? And in the OP, don't forget, in the OP, we see her with the protagonist and they're in those spinny teacup things and they're staring longingly into each other's eyes and looking at the sunset. And now I'm sitting here thinking oh my God, is that where we're going? If so, I'm in. I'm super in. But again, like I said, it's not just Katarina. Because honestly, there's a fair amount of shippiness, and I have a feeling, and don't quote me on this, but I have a feeling that once we get back to the present, right? Once we get these characters at a not like child age, right? Like where they're actually at the magic school, I got a feeling like, and again, I'm not super sure, I could be way off, but I have a feeling like Keith and Gerald might be a ship. Like, just the way that they interact and, like, the fact that they're, like, butting heads over who gets to be more, like, around Katerina more, and how they're both, like, they both want to keep her safe, like, Keith because he's her brother, but Gerald because he's her fiance, and, like, it's just the idea that they're gonna have, like, friction, and, like, I don't know, I'm kind of, I kind of, sometimes I like ships where it starts off with the two characters butting heads, and like just being like aggressive towards each other. I don't know why. I'm a bad person sometimes, but like, yeah, I was just kind of like, I can see these two like getting into duels over Katerina, and like maybe the duels get a little bit intimate as they go and they stop being duels and they just kind of start being dates. I don't know, probably way off base, but yeah, that's kind of where my thought is, that these two will eventually grow into being, if not shippy, then like they'll have some sort of dynamic, and I'm excited. The dynamics in general, I'm excited to see, whether it's a shippy dynamic or just these two characters bouncing off each other. They have really established that the characters are at the heart of the story, and the characters are what I'm most interested to see grow and evolve. Like even just taking Mary, right? Like take Alan out of the episode for like a second, right? And we just look at Mary. Mary's backstory is heartfelt. Like, I feel bad for Mary, and Mary's situation feels much more genuine. Like, I can, like, it's sad to say, but I can imagine that actually happening to somebody, where their father remarries, and they are born into this new marriage, and the older siblings don't get along with them, because they're like, they see them as like, you're the offspring of this new relationship that we don't abide by. And I can see that being like a real thing. So it felt kind of like my heart went out to Mary, and she's such a sweet character that you're like, why are you being mean to this poor little girl? Like, she's a sweet kid and you're being a jerk. Blows my mind. And then you get Alan, who is like living in the shadow of his much more well-respected brother, right? Like the brother in line for, I believe, actually it is? Yeah, Gerald is in line for the throne, I believe. And so Alan is living in his brother's shadow, you know? Or maybe he's not in line for the throne, but everybody just likes Gerald. I don't know. But regardless, just the idea that he's living in his brother's shadow, and it really gets to him. And again, very genuine. The Richie, like the Richie rich element of it, I don't really relate to. But the idea of him being like a brother who lives in the shadow of his, I believe his older sibling, that is like something that I think a lot of people can relate to, and yeah, it just makes Mary and Alan feel more real, especially the fact that like these two are supposed to be shippy together, and Alan is clearly like trying to win Mary over, but Mary's so head over heels for Katerina. It's adorable is what I'm trying to say. I do wonder though when we're gonna get to the magic school. I don't know if it's gonna be next week or the week after. But I am surprised that we haven't gotten to the actual magic school yet. Maybe by the end of episode 3 or the start of episode 4, who knows? But I want to get there ASAP Rocky, because I have a feeling like it would be significantly easier on Katerina if she pushes the protagonist, let me check my notes, Maria, if she pushes the protagonist Maria towards Alan, because even if it doesn't work out and the protagonist doesn't get with Alan, or if it does work out and Mary is forced to walk away, Katerina still lives. Like, it's a win-win for Katerina. It just sucks for Mary if that happens, but then Katerina can be there to break the fall, you know? Like, I'm just saying, it seems like a win-win. I would go that direction if I were Katerina. And I do like that Katerina's starting to kind of, like, I shouldn't say like sink into, but is sort of like leaning into parts of the original Katerina, where she's kind of becoming like a little bit of a villainess in some of her actions. And I don't blame her. She's trying to stay alive. I'd be doing the same thing. But yeah, the narrative of the show, like, it's totally character driven, and I'm here for it, even though I do kind of want to get to the magic school. But it would not be a video of mine without a little bit of maybe analyzing too deep into some color and character design stuff. That's right, ladies and gentlemen, it is design time. And this week we're going to be talking about, obviously, the two characters who we are properly introduced to, Mary Hunt and Alan Stewart. And we're going to start with Mary. So Mary is an interesting kind of character. She's very on the nose, in my opinion. This character design basically tells you a lot just by kind of glancing at her, right? So we know that she's a green thumb, but we could have also kind of gathered that just by her the colors chosen for her character design. Even though she doesn't look like a gardener of any kind, the fact that her tones used in like the tones picked for her design are very sort of earthy tones. You got yellow and lots of like vibrant browns, and it's the brown itself denotes a sort of like reliable, if not slightly kind of timid and plain sort of appearance. And I get the plain thing because she comes off very like timid and shy, right? And the brown hair sort of helps with that. Like she's sort of a wallflower of sorts. Like she doesn't really, she's like, I don't say basic because basic comes off as mean these days, but like her like the brown hair, brown eyes, like I have brown eyes and I mean my hair's not brown, it's black, but like still like it's traditionally you see a lot of people with brown hair, brown eyes, and that's sort of that does kind of connect into her character as well, sort of feeling like the outsider, the wallflower of her family. The yellow is interesting. It could denote a sort of warm side to her, which Mary does very much have. Like Mary is very clearly a kind character, a sweet character, and that comes out in her conversations with Katerina, as well as the ending where Katerina suggests that if the protagonist gets with Alan, Mary isn't evil about it. She like acknowledges that she lost Alan and that the protagonist is going to be with Alan, and she bows out gracefully. That takes the kindest heart possible, so I do think that the yellow was a good choice for her character design. And again, the yellow and the brown, both of these are sort of like earthy tones, earthy shades, and it does make a lot of sense given that we know that she has a green thumb, that she is a bit of a gardener herself. She's the one who plants all the flowers. So I do think that character design is pretty on point. Moving on now, though, we're going to go ahead and talk about Alan Stewart, who I keep wanting to say Alan Scott, like the Green Lantern. I don't know why, but Alan Stewart has he has silver hair, because I almost had gray hair for a second. I'm like, no, he's not old. He has silver hair because he's an anime character. And silver hair, real easy descriptor. It reminds us of silver and gold. Silver and gold reminds us of like rich and powerful, because we kind of associate gold and silver with riches and power. So that makes a lot of sense given his family, where he's from. Very easy to sort of be like, yeah, the silver hair could mean that. Or it could just be a rule of cool thing, because again, silver-haired anime characters are just kind of cool. We haven't really stumbled across a rule of cool character quite yet in the last few videos, but that is a thing. Sometimes character designs are just there to look cool. In fact, a lot of the times they are, and I really am reaching, but in this case, it could be a silver and gold type thing. Who knows? What I find more interesting than his hair color or his eye color is the teal sweater. Because teal is a very interesting color, right? Because teal is sort of, in my opinion, and judging off of what we see from Alan, you could very easily assume that the teal sweater is meant to represent a sort of loneliness to the character, right? Because teal is a color that really stands apart. It's not quite blue, it's not quite green, it's somewhere in the middle. And even in like a spectrum of color, teal stands out as like this color that really stands apart. It doesn't really mesh well with other colors. And you kind of get that from Alan as well. Even the fact that he's not properly wearing the sweater, it kind of shows that he doesn't come across as princely and as prim and proper as Gerald does. So he doesn't really relate to his family quite the same way that Gerald seems to. And he doesn't have that same sort of air of, I don't want to say arrogance, but this sort of air of like a hoity-toity, you know what I mean? He doesn't carry that same sort of weight to him. And it could mean that he's maybe lacking a sense of individuality, because he doesn't want to wear this really standout color, and he's trying to hide that, and maybe he feels like he's hiding a piece of himself because he's trying to blend in with his family, and his family don't really view him the same way. Again, very much reaching, but that's kind of where my thoughts are with Alan's character design. But with that said, everybody, I'm going to wrap up my thoughts here. If you cannot tell, I really enjoyed this week's episode. I'm getting the vibe that by episode 3, I'm going to be like totally caught, hook, line, and sinker. Hamefura is such a good time. I already love this show. and your boy is already trying to like eye out, okay, who's gonna be a ship? Who's gonna be a ship, or is everybody gonna be a ship? I'm leaning towards everybody. And that's gonna do it for today's video, everybody. So I hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, then by all means hitting that like button and leaving a comment down below is a great way to help out this channel as it pleases the almighty YouTube algorithm. So if you choose to do so, kudos to you. And if you're feeling extra supportive today, you can go ahead and check out all the links in the description. One goes to my Twitter, another one is to our Discord server, another one to our merch store if you feel like grabbing yourself a mug, and of course, our Patreon page. And speaking of the Patreon page, I do want to give a big thank you to those of you in the T Squadron who support this channel month to month. Let's go ahead and do the Earl Grey shoutouts. Izevi, Andrew W, Branson C, Bria Rose, Calvin A, Crowbar of Irony, Daniel G, Digger the Fox, Dominic G, Emily, Ionos, Urza, Ginkotaku, Godzilla Fan, No For Nothing, Maria T, Marshall B, Mater, Mirth Mouser, Cell, Shadow Creative, Stephen G, Sakochi, The Suavest Orange, Tristan G, and Veridon. Thanks so much for your continued support over on Patreon, everybody, and if you too would like to join the T Squadron, then be sure to check out the first link in the description to check out our Patreon page. That is a huge way to support the channel. And again, be sure to check out the other stuff in the Discord as well. Go join our Discord. It is now public. You can all join. Everybody can hop in the Discord. Follow me on Twitter if you want me to ramble at you even more. And until next time, you stay classy, AnyTube, and wash your dang hands.